Today, without question, ladies and gentlemen, we can make history. The thing that I love most about being a member of this body is that we sit within the midst of history. Whenever I take a stroll through the State House, I look at all of the portraiture that exists, dating back to the 1700s. I take a stroll through the Speaker's Gallery, and I get a great deal of satisfaction and delight when I see from the 1700s up to the year 2010 that it took 300 some odd years to see diversity and different political perspectives and ideologies allowed to be expressed in this building. That's what today represents. Now, I am a lover of history, and we heard a lot of people making reference to history today. I also relish being an American. And something that history has taught me as an American is that democracy and the ability for all people to equally exist within our democracy is a right that is guaranteed to us in our Constitution. As a lover of history, I remember trying to understand why, as a person of African descent, a constitution was authored in this country that counted me as 3/5 of a person. And that existed in this country for years. And it was promulgated and propped up by law and legislation. That is what today is about. As a student, and we heard reference made to school children and curriculum, I remember something that had a great deal of influence on me as a school person, learning about the formation of the 13 colonies and the various flags that represented them. My favorite flag was the gold one with the serpent and the words inscribed underneath, "Don't tread on me." That's what this day is about in this State House. Now, we can make a giant leap forward today in the fight against one of the last legalized barriers to equal rights. We can stand for equality today. Now, I know that this is not an easy issue. Change is seldom issued. And I know the difficulty firsthand. I was elected to the General Assembly in 2003, and I entered this chamber in 2004. If legislation had been promulgated and moved through this House in 2004, I will candidly tell you, I was not there in 2004. But being a legislator for 9 years, I've had the ability to travel the length and breadth of this state, meeting citizens of this state of all socioeconomic, cultural, ethnic, persuasion, and background. And being in this chamber for 9 years has taught me that in New Jersey, we are currently subjugating a portion of our constituency to unequal treatment under the law. Now, I want to have a little bit of light shed on the issue of theology and theocracy. I was born into a family of Christians. There are 4 Christian ministers who lead congregations in my family. So I know a little bit about religious teaching as well. And what I learned is that I should not ever try to impose what my ideologies or beliefs are on other people, and to have a healthy respect for the ideology and beliefs of everyone else. And that is what I do. I have no difficulty whatsoever with someone having a different point of view than my own. But what I do know is that my Judeo-Christian teaching taught me that I do not have the right to judge anyone else. The Creator did not bestow on me the right to judge any other person. And my Constitution and my history and my recognition of civil law teaches me that we cannot sustain governments where there is not equal protection under the law afforded to other people. Now, this issue of referendum versus this legislature taking this on. You've heard today, as we have acknowledged and recognized the experience of men and women who've lived on this earth for 80 years and close to 90 years. And they lived through periods of time where there were social and cultural context, and people felt very comfortable not providing them with equal protection under the law. That is what this is about. Now, I know in American society, because I am a student of history, we have a history in our country of having difficulty balancing out issues of sexuality and issues about equality. This bill and the promulgation of legislation to allow the marriage of same-sex couples is one steeped clearly in the part of the Constitution that relates to equal protection under the law. And I agree wholeheartedly with my colleague, Assemblyman Gucciaro, who made reference to the case of the Lovings in Virginia. Can you imagine, when I was 3 years old, 3 couples of different ethnic persuasion were legally barred from being married. And that was promulgated by legislatures all over this country. We cannot single out any one group of people and deem them to be undeserving of the same legal protections that everyone else has. We need to support legislation that protects the civil rights of all citizens under the law. We watched the state of Washington on Monday promulgate same-sex marriage legislation, marriage equality legislation. I watched the governor of that state sign that legislation on TV that evening. The world has not stopped turning in those states. And as one of my colleagues in this State House has said repeatedly, no one will turn into a pillar of salt because they support marriage equality. We've been down the road of change before, and we will be down the road of change again. I was very fulfilled to have Congressman Lewis here visiting up with us in Trenton. And something that he said that day just really weighed heavily on my heart. And he said, there will be a history and a point in time. Many of us may not be walking the earth that particular era or decade, and there will be successive generations in this country who will look back at our discussion and our deliberation, and they will say, how could they have been so silly? Separate but equal categorization established by the Civil Union Act has invited and encouraged unequal treatment of same-sex couples and their children. The findings of the New Jersey Civil Union Review Commission and testimony before our legislative committees detailed how civil union couples face difficulty getting employers and hospitals to accept their civil unions as equal to marriage. I represent the city of Clifton, and we have a magazine that's called the Clifton Merchant. The February issue of the Clifton Merchant features a same-sex couple, a man who had served for 14 years as the president of the Clifton Chamber of Commerce, his partner, whose family has had a business established in Clifton for 30 years. And that magazine printed the story of their life's journey. They've been together for 22 years. I received a note from Assemblyman O'Donnell from the New York General Assembly, and he congratulated the members of this House who have the courage to stand and support equality. How fulfilled I was that Sunday as I read my New York Times and I read and saw pictures of the marriage of Assemblyman O'Connell and his partner, who had met in college at age 18 and who have been together for 32 years. That's what we're talking about here today. I have no business as a legislator, passing judgment on what anybody's choice is. Don't tread on me. I caught on to that lesson early in my life. But what I am prepared to do as a legislator, to stand up and embrace the tenets of the US Constitution and the New Jersey Constitution, and to stand up for equal rights for all people who live in the state of New Jersey. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.